welcome back, guys, to another episode of Driven by Christ Auto. So, we're back. It's a Monday morning. We're fixing to get in here and see what we got for our customer order. But before we start the day, we're going to take a message from our Lord. Our redeeming Savior, we rejoice in your name, knowing that your sacrifice on the cross absorbed all of our guilt, past, present, and future. There is no condemnation for those who belong to you. Our guilt-free status as your children provides a good reason to be joyful in each day of our lives. Ever since Adam and Eve's disobedience in the Garden of Eden, Lord, don't get me started on that, the world has been under the bondage of sin. We are so grateful that your sacrificial death provided the solution to this terrible problem. The gospel really is the best news imaginable. You took our sin, you became sin for me, and you gave me your own perfect righteousness. Gave us your own perfect righteousness. Please help us learn to fully enjoy our guilt-free status in your kingdom, though you, the law of the Spirit of life, has set me free. We realize this is not an invitation to dive into a careless, sinful lifestyle. Instead, you enable us to live thankful, celebrating the amazing privilege of belonging to you forever. It's such a wondrous blessing to know who we really are, the beloved children of God. This is my true identity and makes every moment of our life meaningful. In your precious name, Jesus. Amen. Alright, the references for this is going to come from Romans chapter 8, verse 1 through 2, Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21, and John chapter 1, verse 11 through 12. Alright, guys. That was the message from our Lord today, and yes, it is great to know that no matter what mistakes we make in life, we must try to do right ultimately, not go out and go do a bunch of stuff and be like, oh, hey, Jesus, thanks for helping me. No, it don't work like that. But, if we do get tempted in our trials and we fail, we're not a complete failure. We must repent, call to his name, and they're washed free. And try not to do it again, mainly. Do better for others. But, alright guys, so got the rest of the stuff out of the old work truck. Jamie's already inside, getting computers turned on, getting the machines ready. We got the main power switch over here. We can hit bloom, bam, everything's getting turned on. Alright, so wheel machine, we got it on auto calibrate. We got everything airing up. Battery, everything turns on with that switch. So, it's Monday. We do customer orders Monday through Friday. We did get a pretty good ways on Project Eclipse. Just kind of recap, we got our full race engine built. We still got to deal with suspension. Quite a few components are still left on the car, but we are a pretty good ways. We're over the hill now. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and see what we got for our customer order today. Alright, it looks like we're dealing with an old Chevy Caprice wagon. So, this is what the customer says. Good morning, I'd like someone to take a look at my car. I'm not an automotive fan. The car should serve me to move from point A to point B or to go fishing. I love fishing trips, and that's one of the reasons for my visit. Most of all, I beg you, please do something with the car seat and the couch. I recently had a whole container of fish tip over in the back end. Oh Lord, this thing's gonna stink, and it's getting warm outside. I bet you this car reeks. As far as the smell of fish, it doesn't bother me. The amount of water damage is driving me mad. Please take a look under the hood while you're at it. I know nothing about mechanics, but recently whenever I was making my way through a back road to a lake, some part fell off. Since the car has been swaying strangely, and do something about the back. When I pick up the whole rear end, the wheels are pressing against the wheel arches. Okay, so something's wrong with the suspension where the car is bottoming out up against the tires. That's not really good because it can actually cut a hole in the tire with the metal up against it. Maybe they're underinflated. Do whatever in your power. I've got a competition. He's got a fishing competition soon. And okay, so he wants an oil change done, and we've got other tasks. So Jamie's got the list on that. The customer's going to be dropping off the car. So let's go outside and see what we're up against. Alright, so customer dropped off the vehicle. It is kind of dirty. We're going to we're going to give him the full Driven by Christ special. It's what we do. We take care of our customers. And Jamie's got the details on the final order on what all we got to do to this. Woo! Oh man, dude, somebody has been playing, dude. Somebody's done swapped the LS motor into this thing. This is not your regular everyday Caprice. So this is like the street racing fishing mobile, man. Look at this. Somebody's done LS swapped a Chevy Caprice. Ah, that's nice there. I ain't gonna lie, that's really nice. All right, so we got to do an oil change. This is the hot rod fishing vehicle here. This is a work and play all together. So it's got some suspension problems, so let's get the car. Let me look at this again. Boy, I'm telling you, that is nice. We got one of the fastest engines. The only thing is it just needs a supercharger on it, but he don't need no extra power. This thing's got enough power to go through any woods. But let's go ahead and get it moved into the wash bay and get everything cleaned up before we get it into our shop. Or our test path, actually. We got to figure out what's going on. If it will let us do it. We'll find out. So let's get this thing washed up. Alright. Going through the full details. Alright, so looks like the body is in fairly good condition. Windows are good. It's just really dirty. Alright. We definitely got to work on the interior. So got to get the old stank fish smell out of here, so let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Man, it was so dirty there was no bubbles in here. We may have to do that again. Hold up. Yeah, I don't even see no foam in here. Nothing but blackness coming from. Alright, so let's look in here. So it looks like for the most part we got everything cleaned up pretty good. Man, this is a straight up sleeper. You would have never thought this thing had a LS motor into it. Oh man, he's even got a moonroof in the back. This is a nice Chevy Caprice. But anyways, alright, so he said there's a component missing, so it's probably not gonna let us run it on the test path, but we will try and see if it can identify what's going on. Engine can't be started, so I guess he had it towed here. Alright, so we're gonna have to go straight to the rack with this one. Alright guys, so we got the car moved over here on rack 1. Let's go ahead and start doing some diagnosing. First of all, let's see if this thing's got oil in it. Okay, so we got oil, got brake fluid, we got coolant. We should be able to diagnose the motor now. Let's see. Okay, we got a stopped up fuel filter. Okay, 42% fuel volume, so not fuel pump's not even given, you know, half of what the fuel it should be delivered. But with a stopped up fuel filter, that would definitely be the reason why we're not getting any fuel in here. But alright, let's further diagnose so we know that fuel is, I don't even think this car has got an OBD scanner. Oh, it does. I guess it is because the LS was a OBD2. So let's see what we got. A lot of yellow and orange. Alright. So it looks like this LS motor has seen better days. So it's probably a junkyard swap. They probably swapped this engine out at the junkyard or pulled it out of a junkyard vehicle. Everybody hates the compression test. We'll go ahead and do the... He said there was something going on with the tires. Let's check out the tires real quick. Alright, so tires have got at least pretty close to 50% of wear left on them, so they're still good. I'm gonna save the compression test for last. We're gonna do the electric, check out all the electronic components. Drive-by-wire is good. Obviously the starter's good, or else it wouldn't even turn over. Alright, so everything electronical looks like it's checking out, and the test that nobody likes doing, the compression test. Oh no. Alright, yeah, so this engine is 50% of his life is worn away, but still runnable. It's not completely damaged where it can't run. We don't, let's see if we can, we'll go ahead and pull this fuel filter off real quick. And we're going to put a performance fuel filter on this car. You know, since we do have a performance motor and the fuel pump is kind of lacking in power, we don't want any restriction getting to the fuel rail. So we'll throw this in there. Hopefully the engine will crank now, but let's go ahead, we'll pull the battery out and do a customer charge on it. Since we got this lovely battery rejuvenator over here, we're gonna throw it on there. Alright, so we'll let it be diagnosing, surface charging. If any fluid needs to be added, it does it all on its own. It's a standalone battery maintenance machine. So alright, so we know we was having problems with fuel. Let's check the service order and see what we're up against. Other tasks: perform wheel alignment and refill wash fluid. Okay, drain the oil. Let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air. We'll do the oil change. We'll vac the fluid out on this real quick. Vac tool. Put some new wash fluid in here before we get it up in the air. Okay. Let's add. And Jamie ordered us a couple of cases of wash fluid, so we'll be good on that. Using that Rain X Blue Special. It's got Rain X and what is that? Wind X. It's a Wind X Rain X mix. That's the reason why it's got a blue tint. But anyways, alright, so we got that taken care of. We're gonna go ahead and drain the oil and do a oil change on it. Try to extend the life of this wonderful LS motor that they got swapped into here. Or kind of like a LS motor. It's like a dual overhead cam V8 with variable valve timing. It's like two Honda K24s mated together. I mean, nobody can hate on the Honda motors. Them things are just, the K-Series motors was just unbelievable at their machine work that they had done to it. So anyways, but it looks like an LS. Let's get this moved over to here. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and come on now, I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil. Look fairly decent. We're gonna go ahead and pull our oil filter off. Not exhaust. What is going on? Alright, we'll drop that down into the bucket. It'll be draining. And let me see, I may actually have another oil filter for this car in stock. Yep, I do. So we're going to put our new oil filter on, and all we should have to do is put our, we only use performance oil here. We're going to use the recommended weight for it, which is probably in this LS or, you know, performance V8. It's going to be a 5W20 full synthetic, but we use Hyperlube in all of our oils. It's just an extra additive for wear and tear, and considering this motor is wore out pretty good, it's gonna love this oil. So come on, what's going on? Okay, there we go. Alright, so here we go. Super oil, let's do it. Remember, whenever the oil jug tips over, count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that should be it. Should be pretty close to being filled all the way up. Let's see what we got. Let's see if I got it pretty close. Oh yeah, there you go. That's good there. It ain't at the, ain't quite, it ain't overfilled, but it ain't underfilled. So we're in operating level. So we got the oil change done. We got new wash fluid in. Let's check our customer order again. Alright, we got to do an alignment. And there is a whole bunch of destroyed suspension parts. He needs a brake job done. We're going to do a full brake job. I think this thing's got drum brakes on the back, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get it up in the air. Alright, get this front tire taken off. Pop our wheel covers off. We've got a bad lug nut up here. Hopefully that didn't damage our spindle, but go ahead and break down the brake caliper, brake pads, and pull the disc. We're gonna go ahead and give him a full brake job. Now, since he does have a performance engine in this car, I'm gonna go ahead and DrivenByChrist Auto is going to give him the hookup on the brakes. We are going to run with a ceramic coated brake, and we're going to turn his rotors for him too. Let's check the back real quick. I think it's got drums in the back. Man, somebody is just butchering these lug nuts, probably putting them on with an impact instead of just torquing them down like they're supposed to be. Wow, it's got disc brakes on the back. Alright. So, probably, since it's got disc brakes all around, we're probably not going to have to go with slotted and drilled rotors, but we are going to give him some good performance ceramic coated brake calipers. Disperse some of the heat. They don't have a lot of air room through this rim where air can flow through the braking system, but we're gonna at least upgrade his calipers for him. We'll return all these rotors. Alright. Yeah, pretty much all the suspension is destroyed in this vehicle. So, and it looks like the rear end is tore up too. So that's not good. Let's check out the front. Front suspension is pretty bad off. It even looks like the subframe got tore up, which is kind of a good thing. We can leave the engine hanging in here by the motor mounts. What type of suspension is this? This is double wishbone. Man, this thing's just got they just put a Chevy Caprice body on a performance frame. Hey, this thing should be a good race car. This thing should run some good numbers. I'm halfway tempted to do that just to see what type of numbers it will run. We may even we'll give him some dyno tune numbers and just kind of freshen up the factory ECM with what tuning we can do to a factory ECM, which is not very much in the game. So, but alright, let's go ahead and get started. We'll work on we'll go ahead and get our rotors to start turning. Left the rotor on here. Alright, we'll go ahead and get it going. It's electronic. It takes care of everything on its own. Yeah, we're gonna have to definitely take the shaft loose so we can get this whole rear end. Looks like we're gonna have to rebuild the back of this car. Alright, let's see what we got going on. Chevy D40. Alright, drive shafts out of the way. So that frees up the rear end, that way we can pull all of this down. So, yeah, because the rear end is destroyed. We're going to go ahead and pull out our drive axles, which you would have to pull this cover off, drain the fluid, pull this cover off, and there will be locking pins that hold this drive shaft into place, so it just can't just fall out going down the road. So we'd pull that cover off. We'd have to put some Honda Bond or import gray on the back of this, putting it back together. But the main thing we're doing is just getting the axles pulled so we can disassemble this whole rear end. Alright, so we got that out of the way. We'd be putting our jack up underneath here to support the rear end up in the air so we can break down suspension components. So let's go ahead and start tearing this thing down. Alright, get the springs off. Alright, these are what you call leaf spring bolts, U-bolts. Leaf spring plate. It's like the control arm, they could be, you can probably redo them, but let's go ahead. We got our jack up underneath here so we can pull everything out. Should have some shocks in stock. If not, we'll hit up O'Reilly's and aggravate them on a Monday. Alright. Normally call down there and mess with them, give them a hard time. Because if I didn't mess with them, I don't like them. But anyways. Alright. There we go. Oh yeah, he snapped a U-bolt off. And oh, there is a crack in the drive house, our rear end housing, I should say. So he's losing fluid there, so that's not a good thing. We're gonna probably have to replace his rear end. I don't know, I may be able to grind it down and TIG weld it back up for him, hopefully. That way the customer don't have to buy a whole brand new rear end, because this is gonna be a lot of parts being replaced in here. Alright, we'll pull this out, and since we are getting the rear end out of the way, actually we would have had to remove these exhausts to get that down, but we're going to pretend that I already had done that. So let's pull this fuel pump out of here and see if we can't fix it too. Fuel tank looks okay. He don't look like he done tore it up. So alright, let's we're gonna go ahead and pull all the parts that can be fixed. Let's see. Go ahead and pull this out. Pull this sway bar in link. I don't know what condition it's in. The lower control arm is absolutely destroyed. We'll have to pull it off anyways to do the subframe. So the rest of it looks okay. I ain't gonna be in like the best condition, but all the shocks in this thing were wore out. It ain't no wonder why the tires were rubbing in the fenders. Probably would bounce like crazy too. Hit a bump and be bouncing for the next 5 minutes. Alright, so we got that out of there. Let's go ahead and pull the sway bar out and we'll start undoing the subframe. Get it pulled down and see if we can't do some, of course, you know, we would have our subframe jack up underneath here. That way we didn't have stuff just falling on the floor. We'll see if we can't bust out the grinder and the welding machine on this too. So there's going to be some welding involved into this. I like TIG welding. That's pretty good welding. Alright, so we let our jack down, take our subframe down. Alright, so we got that out. Let's see, we're going to go over here to the TIG welding CNC. This is like your build a part section of the shop. So let's see what we can do. Brake caliper. Was able to rebuild it. Wheel cylinder. Probably just needed some cleaning, some new seals on it. We keep all that stuff in stock. Jamie orders all the miscellaneous stuff that we need on the side. Whenever she sees that I use it, she goes ahead and puts in an order directly. That way we ain't got to stop and order crucial parts that, you know, we can't just have piled up in the shop everywhere. But we do got a pretty good storage inventory, but we got to build up our money first. Oh, I forgot to explain that. We did start out today with about $400,000, so ooh, we was able to rebuild that axle. So we're already kind of getting into some money fixing stuff, because, you know, even fixing things, it does cost money for the materials to fix it. So looks like it's going pretty good. So far we've been able to fix everything except for the subframe and the rear end. So that is very unfortunate that we couldn't, you know, we couldn't fix those parts. So it looks like the crack was just too bad to weld up, and not to mention, I don't think I would want to put a welded rear end inside of a car with this much power. So let's go into our part menu. Let's see, assort by arrival. Well, if that be the case, oh, we're not on page 1. Okay, so we know we're gonna need a new subframe. Where's the rear end? We know we're gonna need a new rear end, and we're gonna have to build some double wishbone axles, or not axles, shock absorbers. So let's assemble some new parts. Double wishbone, not rear, we need double wishbone front. Alright, right there. Alright. Take it off, let's build the next one. Make sure you're hitting double wishbone shock absorber, not for the rear, because they look both identical. So you may be building the wrong parts, so make sure, because I've accidentally built them for the rear and needed them for up front, and it can get aggravating. So our battery looks like it is pretty much almost all the way reconditioned. We're going to let it keep building up a surface charge. Let's pull out our tablet here. We're going to hit up O'Reilly's. They're going to be happy with this order. So we need a front cross member. It's a $440 part, brand new, directly from GM. So we're going to go ahead and put it in. We are going to get where's our rear end? There it is, right there. Brand new rear end. We're going to get it from Dana Spicer rear end. So they call it a voice prize, a Dana Spicer voice prize. Okay, whatever. We got it ordered. So we're going to wait on O'Reilly's to bring them, and we will continue dealing with the brakes while we're waiting on the parts. Go ahead and get it on the lathe, get it turning, and we was able to rebuild the brake calipers, so we're going to go out here and ceramic coat these brakes and heat treat the metal. That way, you know, since we got a pretty powerful motor building or pushing this car, we want to make sure it can stop for sure. Yeah, he wants to make sure he can stop, you know, so he can continue these fishing trips. But something tells me this guy does a little bit of street racing on the side. He just ain't wanting to talk about it. Talking about he don't know about this car. He's got a freaking V8 swap Chevy Caprice, a performance one at that, not just a regular V8, like an old school carbureted. We're talking about electronic fuel injected, variable valve lift and control, VVTi, the works. I think this thing produces like over 400 horsepower factory. We'll check the work order on it and see what the factory horsepower is. I was just surprised to see that motor in there. That's the hot rod fishing vehicle. Alright, we'll get one more of these calipers into here. Actually, I think we need one more after this, my bad. kind of moving a little bit. This thing ain't moving as fast as it normally does. And we'll have 2 more rotors to resurface, so after this, but it takes a little bit for them rotors to resurface because it's probably going to take multiple cuts to get it right. Alright, so let's go back into our repair shop. Alright, so it's done with that one. Wasn't too bad. Go ahead and do that. Alright. We could break down the tires and wheels and probably clean them up for the customer. But our parts just got here, so we're going to head out front and I'm going to help the O'Reilly boys get this stuff inside. So we'll be back here in just a second. Alright, yay. Alright, so we got everything inside. We're ready. We got it out of the boxes and we are ready to go back together. So let's go ahead and get our rear. We'd have our rear end jack. We'd have our rear end up here and we would jack it up, get it, you know, somewhat aligned with the bottom of the vehicle. Go ahead and get it hung in place. First thing you would want to do is get your solid control arms. We was able to rebuild one of them, but not the others, so we're probably going to have to put in order. We only used solid rubber bushings, the polyurethane black. We use the good stuff at Driven by Christ Auto. We don't put the old El Cheapo bushings back into there. Oh man, that's sad. We're gonna have to order a new. Let's see what we got. We'll have to call them back up, and we're gonna go ahead and put an order for 4 of these in. Just that way, I got some on standby. Build up our inventory. You know what? We'll just go ahead and get 10 of them. Alright, so they'll be bringing me 10. We pretty much bought everything that they had in stock. They love Driven by Christ Auto, boy. Every time I call, they're hearing the ka-ching in the background. But anyways, alright, so we're waiting on that. We'll continue to put the rest of this rear end while we're waiting on that part to get in. We have plenty of these in stock because these are, you know, a naturally worn out component in the vehicle. They wear over time. There's nothing you can do with them. It just happens. We keep springs in stock. We definitely keep springs in stock. These are another component that like wearing out. We was able to rebuild the knuckle for this, so let's slap it back in. Put our brake shield on. We was able to rebuild the drive axles. We got new locks. Like I said, we're gonna fill up this cover would be off of here where you could remove the sliding pin that holds this drive axle into place, and you'd have a few more components you would have to put back together, but this cover would actually be off of it, so we would have to fill this rear end up. Once we got both of the drive axles into there, we could put the cover back onto it and fill it up with fluid, because fluid is actually filled up. I think it's like halfway. I know it can actually flow through here, whereas this axle spins in a circle, it lubricates everything. Keeps your bearings lubed up. Alright, so let's get this knuckle in. Slide our... Oh yeah, you gotta put the brake shield on there before you can put this in. Ooh, we wasn't able to rebuild that axle. I could have swore that we did. Alright, so gotta hit O'Reilly's up again. Hopefully they can catch this before they bring over all 10 of those lower control arms, or the solid axle control arms in the back. So we're waiting on this part. We'll go ahead and put this in here, at least get it in. And once we get this into place and we get the shock absorber in the way, we should be able to slide our jack out from up underneath here with at least one of these things hanging. It shouldn't, you know, fall out on the floor as long as nobody's, you know, back here shoving on it or pushing on it. Oh, why would you put the exhaust up? Lord. Okay, I accidentally hit the wrong thing. Alright, get this U-bolt in. Alright. Alright, so now we should be able to move the jack out of the way because it's, you know, it's hanging by this. We got one part holding it in, so it may be kind of leaning down over here. Nothing major. We don't have to worry about a jack being in our way. So Let's go ahead and get this last rotor turn. Alright. And we'll go ahead and start putting the front suspension back together since we got all the components for it, and get our subframe in. Alright, of course we'd use our subframe jack it up into place, and we'd drop our bushings in and put our bolts back in. Remember, polyurethane bushings last a lot longer than regular ones, but they are a little bit more solid, so you're sacrificing a little bit of, you know, maybe comfort of a softer ride for a more firm ride. Like, you may feel a lot of the bumps and vibrations because this is not a soft rubber, this is a hard rubber. That's the reason why it lasts, you know, a lot longer than other things. I think this is his sway bar. We're gonna go ahead and put it back into there. I know he had a brand new one, but he just only wanted to replace what was just absolutely broken. So anyways, alright, so now we can remove our subframe jack out of the way, and we can go ahead and start putting our other components in. Go ahead and put our lower control arm. We keep these in stock, which I am going to have to order them. Let me go ahead and tag this, and we're going to put that in, tell Jamie to go ahead and order that. Get about 10 of them. Alright, she's going to put in the order for that. Now here's our new suspension. Now if you accidentally built it for the rear, it ain't going to allow you to install this. Here's our old ones that we need to break down for scrap pieces. We'll do that off camera. I do all the scrapping off camera. Oh, I did forget to say, we do have almost 8,000 scrap parts. So that's going to be good for our Driven by Christ drag car. We can go ahead and start squeezing some more performance out of it, even though we've been undefeated so far. We haven't had anybody to outrun us yet, except for whenever, you know, I poop at the Christmas tree and, you know, either come off the line too fast and red flag, but we have not had nobody to just straight up outrun us yet because of their vehicle being more powerful. So may save those parts for another vehicle that is struggling to win, because we got to be able to compete in that last tier of drag racing to get the most, you know, the most profit out of our time for racing. So let's go ahead and put this shock into there. Boy, that thing's all shiny and looking good. Alright, we keep Swalar in links in. You know, we're gonna go ahead and put some new ones in, because we don't need you know, customer being like, hey, you know, I just asked you to replace this part for me, and I'm still hearing a bunch of rattling. So sway bar in link, we were almost out of them, so we're gonna put in a pack of 10, get them on the way. Let's move to the other side. Did I already put that sway bar in link? Nope, I didn't do it. Alright, there we go. Okay, we'll go get our last rotor off, and go ahead and put together our brakes. Man, this is crazy. This thing's got a freaking high-powered V8 and a whole Chevy Caprice wagon. Alright, so we do got some ventilated brake, but those are for our Eclipse, so we're not going to use them on this vehicle. We're just going to use the ones that come in with, but we have them resurfaced. Woo, that's another thing we need. We need to order some more brake pads. Boy, we burned through brake pads. I'm gonna put in an order for, we'll get like 20 sets of them. Alright, so O'Reilly's just gonna be bringing a truck over here. They're gonna have to load down that little Nissan. I think that was what they were using last, was Nissan delivery trucks. I was there whenever they had the Ford Ranger, or the ending of the Chevy S10, the beginning of the Ford Ranger, and the start of the Nissan trucks. So, in fact, I remember having to do all the paperwork on our new vehicles that we got the new Nissan delivery trucks. They were okay. I still like the, dude, you couldn't tear them Ford Ranger trucks up, man. You could do anything with them. But then again, you know, if Nissan can uphold to O'Reilly deliver, oh wait a minute, hold up guys. I'm over here running my mouth and not putting the right brake calipers on. We ceramic coated these for him. Let's do this right. We're gonna have to go pull that other one off. Thank God we don't got fluid in here right now. Alright, we're gonna pull this off. My bad. Reminiscing in the old O'Reilly days of selling parts. Do kind of miss that job, but then again, there's days that I don't miss it. I mainly miss helping out the customers with doing mechanic work for them, so that way that they didn't have to pay full price at shops and stuff. I helped a lot of people out there whenever I worked at O'Reilly's. And I actually, on my days off, I was at O'Reilly's helping people work on their cars. They let me work on them in the parking lot as long as they signed an agreement that, you know, I'm not an official shop. I'm not an ASE certified technician. O'Reilly's is not affiliated that way. You know, there ain't, everybody's trying to sue each other nowadays. But I almost opened up a full-blown shop in Monroe. I had a little shop business, but it wasn't like, you know, full-blown registered. It was just doing mechanic work to help people out. I helped a lot of elderly people and a lot of women because they were getting, man, they were just getting taken advantage of at shops like there was no tomorrow. So, a lot of ladies I helped then. But, alright, so we got the rest of our parts in for the rear end. Let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. Alright, that was only one job that I remembered, you know, whenever I done it, that I couldn't actually help the girl fix it. And somebody had got in there and broke it was some type of sensor. I can't remember what sensor it was. I want to say it was like a knock sensor or something, but they broke it. And they just glued it back onto there for her. And whenever I got up underneath there, and because I always looked at stuff before I unplugged it, because I didn't want to break anything. If it looked like it was going to break and it was going to be in this knock sensor, you had to remove some stuff to get to it. I could barely get to it, but they had broken this thing, and whoever touched the vehicle before I did, they glued it back on and just left it sitting there. Like, the part was still screwed into the block, the actual sensor, but the electrical part or the plug snapped onto it, they had snapped it off and then just glued it back. Like, there was silicone in it. I was like, oh my God. But because I couldn't do that type of extensive work in the I say I couldn't do extensive work, I swapped the engine out in the parking lot in a Honda Civic, but those things are like lawnmower motors. They were pretty small. I had it out in a couple of hours and the new engine was in. In fact, before the day was over with, I had it running, had fluids in, and he actually drove it home later that night. Alright, so we got our new drive axle in. Dana Spicer bearings and axles. We're going to go ahead and put this into there. Fresh disc. We always use StopTech brake pads, our Brembro series. Very good, you know, brakes. Since this guy's got a close to 500 horsepower vehicle in a or motor in a Chevy Caprice, he needs these brakes upgraded. Alright, so I think we're done with the rear end. We can go ahead and throw the tires back on. Not our tires. Let's see. Make sure they're all the same around. We got a bunch of tires we need to break down. Put some new lug nuts on here. Torque them down correctly. That way that they're not over torqued. And we got to use the magical penetrating oil, PB Blaster. That's a good penetrating oil. We used it out in the paper mill whenever I was a welder there. Boy, you wanted to get something undone that was rusty, PB Blaster was probably about the best you were going to get. WD-40 works pretty good, but PB Blasters for the seriously rusted and frozen parts. So we was able to rebuild the drive shaft, put some new universal joints in. Those things, my lord, every time. In fact, you can see up here in between these bolts, I'll show it to you. You can see the universal joints. It's what actually, hold on. It's that right there. Literally what's behind that yellow bolt is a universal joint. That was some of the most aggravating things to find at O'Reilly's. The best thing you could do was just tell the customer to bring what was left of the universal joint in so we could match it up with the micrometer, and because none of them, they would just show a list of universal joints that would be different for every vehicle. You never could find the one that you needed. So I always just had the customer bring them in, and I mic'd them up, measured them with a micrometer, and are you serious? Alright, so we're gonna have to order some leaf spring plates. Oh, where are these? Alright, so we're gonna get another 20 of these in, because we done flew through them already. Alright, so we gotta wait on that leaf spring plate. We got the stuff. We'll go ahead and put our exhaust system back up. Alright, while we're waiting on that, let's get this in. Alright, come on now. This camera gets on my nerves sometimes. Alright, so it looks like we got the front put together. It's like everything's pretty good. Sway bar. We should be ready for the alignment rack now. Let's go ahead and get these tires on while they're getting them leaf spring plates in. Love being able to put new hardware on here. Fresh new lug nuts that will probably come off a lot easier for the customer whenever they got to change a tire or something. Alright, there we go, hubcap covers on. So let's double check everything. So now we have put this plate on the back side of this rear end with some import gray or gray silicone. That's some of the best silicone I've ever used, was the gray stuff. Some of it is heat treated for the different temperatures, but the gray has always worked the best. It has a good work time, but once it settles in, it dries pretty quick too. But anyways, we would put this cover on. There would be you would have an oil drain cap down here at the bottom, on the very bottom of the rear end, and wherever the oil level is supposed to get up to will be like a little fill cap. And what you do is you fill this rear end up with gear oil or whatever the manufacturer's spec is. We run Hyperlube in everything we run, even our rear end oil, so it's an additive that, extends the oil life of any oil. It also adds zinc and DDP, which is a friction modifier. It keeps, not a friction modifier, but a friction reducer. It keeps down metal to metal. So, and there's a lot of metal to metal going on in this thing. So we'd fill this thing up until it overfilled. Once it started pouring back on you, you would stop filling it and put the cap or put your bolt back in, and that'd be it. It'd be ready to go. A lot of people would sit there and say, oh, well, you're supposed to wait for the silicone to dry. If you put a thin layer of this stuff on there and you torque it down to the spec, the fluid is not gonna, penetrate that silicone just sitting here. Now, if you started running in it, probably may, but we'll just say that this dried out before we put the old heating gun on it and dried it up real quick before we put the fluid in there. That way there's no arguments in the comments, if I ever even get a comment. So, anyways, alright, so we got that on there. Let's check our work order on this thing. Oh, he needs an air filter too, and it looks like, yeah, we're going to do a wheel alignment, and we're also going to give him a dyno tune, and or at least let him know what the performance is of his vehicle. So, what was that other thing? I just looked at it, air filter. So, let's take our wonderful little clips off. Hate these things. Alright, there we go. They normally stay hooked to the bottom of this cover. I've never really seen any that pop off like this, but alright, so air filter is completely destroyed. So I think we got some performance ones in stock, and that's the only thing I got in stock. So he's going to get a performance air filter. You know, that motor, wake up this motor just a little bit, maybe get him close to back to his factory horsepower. Either way, he's going to tell a difference with that oil. I know that. I know whenever I use that hyperlube in my car in the middle of oil changes, you can feel the performance difference. It's not like a major increase, but it's enough where you can feel that the friction is a lot less in the motor. So, all right, so we got that air filter into there. It's time to put this thing on the ground and we'll shut this, and we're going to get this car moved to the alignment shop. Alright guys, I will see you over there. Wait a minute, where is it? Test path. Alright, so we got the car in the alignment shop. Let's make sure this thing's gonna crank up. Let's see. Oh yeah, I know what's going on. Thank God I keep extra batteries out here in the shop. It ain't gonna crank up without no battery. Alright, so let's throw a fresh hot battery in here. Now let's see if it will crank up. Oh man, I feel like a dum-dum right now. Well guys, looks like we're gonna have to take this car back. I don't know, there may be an access panel in the back where I can access the fuel pump. Oh, you dirty. You're so dirty. Okay, there is an access panel in the back where we can put a fuel pump in. Yay! Okay. Alright, so yeah, obviously the car is not going to crank with no fuel. So let's get in here and let's prime up our... What you would do is you would turn the ignition on. You would turn it on one time. You'd hear the fuel pump, and then it will click. Turn the ignition off. Turn it back on again. You'll hear it run for a little while. Turn it off. Turn it back on again. Whenever you hear the fuel pump come on for a second, it'll go yee and then shut off. That means it's done primed up your fuel rail. Alright, so we would have cycled it a few times. Let's see if it'll crank up. Dang gum, dude, this thing's it's got a lot of rumbling. Sounds like it's got a little bit of a cam in it. Let's see what it sounds like. Not as loud because it's got a factory exhaust, but we did crank up, so that is a good sign. That means we're ready for the test path. Leaf spring plate. Alright, let's see if I can slide up underneath here and put this on. No way, I should be able to slide up underneath this car and throw some U-bolts on it. I knew this was going to happen. Alright, we got to take it back to the rack. Alright, so, got the car back in here again. See, there's a lot of things that go on. Sometimes you forget them. But we wouldn't have damaged anything as long as you didn't like gas on it, considering we just pushed it over there or got our little forklift and moved it there, so nothing was damaged. We can go ahead and throw it on there, put the U-bolts in. But yep, gotta have all this on there to do an alignment, because it would have definitely thrown a red flag. Alright, let's just do a once over. Alright, that's there, all that's into place. Let me see if there's any ghosted parts I'm just not noticing, because see, this stuff's so small I can barely see it anyways. Let's check up front. Let's move up front closer. Thank you. I don't see where I've missed anything, so hopefully this will work. Alright, we're gonna drive it to the shop this time. I'll see y'all over there in the suspension path. Alright, so attempt number 2 at trying to align this car, if I didn't forget any more parts. Yes. Alright, So basically, this is going to give a full diagnosing, tells him about his suspension and his brakes overall. So let's see what we got. Dang, this thing's hitting so hard on all 8 cylinders, it's shaking the needle in the dash. I'll have to get fuel in this thing before too long. Alright, it's going to do the shake test. Ooh, only got 5 minutes left on the camera. Come on, we gotta hurry. Alright, so he's got a full report on his suspension. Let's go ahead and do the alignment real quick. Get everything back in the green. Don't look like I'm going to be able to do a dyno tune on it. Of course, I don't think he's interested in those numbers anyways. He said he's just all about fishing, so maybe somebody had put this motor in this car before he got it. I don't know. I'm still going to say he's a weekend racer. But let's go ahead and get it moved out front so the customer can go ahead and pick up his vehicle. Alright, so we're out front. Let's check our customer order. Everything is green, and Jamie's done give him a call. They're inside, you know, they're dealing with all the paperwork and getting him a receipt, and total we made it's $6,815 on this job. So we did kind of have to order some parts, so some of our shop money was spent to restocking parts, but if we just would have fixed everything and bought, we would have made quite a bit of money on this job. So either way, customer's happy, he's ready to get about down the road and go fishing again, and hopefully he doesn't stink up the car again, but we don't mind cleaning it out. That's what we got the wash bay for. So anyways, let's go ahead and get our money and send the customer on his way. Alright, so he was real happy. You know, he was even surprised about the motor that was in there. After I talked to him, he ain't no weekend racer. He barely knows anything about a vehicle. But I explained, I was like, man, you got a really good motor in your car for a Chevy Caprice. And I told him, I said, it's a performance motor, so if you ever need anything done to it, or if you ever think about racing it, come back to Driven by Christ Auto and we can hook you up. But anyways, guys, we went ahead and knocked out that vehicle before lunch, so we'll come back with a part 2 on this episode. We'll catch the afternoon run. You know what? We may go race this afternoon, or we may continue building our Eclipse. I'll think about it at lunchtime. But either way, thanks for you know, being here with us. We enjoy sharing the ministry. We like building the cars and, you know, playing along with these stories. I try to do my best with a good imagination. So I'm hoping I'm keeping the children entertained, you know, and they're learning something too with this. I try to put valuable information in it. Like I said, I'm watching my rent. Some days are bad days, some days are good days. So anyways, guys, I'll catch y'all on the next episode after lunch, and y'all have a God bless day, and we'll see you again. Bye.